What's up, guys? Sorry about the delay. Is it live? Going live. Houston, the Eagle has landed. Right, back in Doom. So guys, I don't know if you noticed, but there's something a little bit different this time about my LiquidSky demo. Just a tiny, teeny bit. Oh, except for that part. Alright. Teeny tiny bit, guys. What is it? Surprised nobody's figured it out yet. You know what it is? Morgan, it's where the camera is. It's not Windows 9, guys. You're very close though. Very close. It's actually Windows 11. In a way.
We have a winner.
He got it? The mouse is not lagging. That's just honestly.
Jeffrey got it.
Jeffrey got it. So I want to point something out. This is all very alpha, and we're testing it kind of on one of our servers that we have here. It's not in production yet. Nobody can use it. We still have some work we'd like to do to it, but I just wanted to show it off real quick. This is the browser-based LiquidSky client, the Chrome edition. No installs required, not even a single Chrome plugin required. Works out of the box in Google Chrome. And the latency is blowing all of us away. It's not going to be quite as fast as the native client. You're always going to get a slight performance boost to the native client. But if you're away from home and you can't install something, or you just want to quickly hop on, check out your Sky computer, play a game, run a program. We hope to enable that from the browser soon as one of the available clients. Just use it on the LiquidSky website. When I do need to figure out, Morgan, I might need your help because I haven't played this part. Where we're going. For those of you who didn't see the last AMA, it was bad. I was trying to play PUBG. Today I'll be playing some Fortnite as well, but wanted to start off with Doom. Morgan, you know this part?
No.
I think I'm supposed to go up through here, right?
I've only
done the beginning 1,000 million times every time I'm doing a demo or an AMA, but I've never made it this far. So guys, also a heads up, the team here tells me that I don't sleep enough and I have bags under my eyes. So if I look like I haven't slept in 3 years. What is this here? This is awesome. But yeah, I'm playing Doom right now in a web browser, which is kind of interesting. So they sell the DLC now.
So would this work on mobile devices the same way?
Yeah, we would definitely want the native. So the browser introduces latency. Whenever you do anything in a browser in HTML5, generally there's a bit of added kind of lag. You think about kind of what the web is. It's sort of like a cross-platform sandbox. And when I say sandbox, I mean it tries to protect you just as much from the website as you know, it's cross-platform. So everything that kind of happens in a browser has to go through a series of filters. You wouldn't want to, you know, sort of have code running on your computer that could be a virus or a pop-up or something, especially if you just go to a website. It's not the download or native code being executed. So everything we do in the browser does introduce a little bit of latency. On mobile, because it's a lot, we're adjusting the camera. It's a little bit less high performance as a, you know, kind of a desktop PC. The mobile browsers do take some shortcuts. So odds are on mobile, depending on what platform, if it's like Android TV or it's a more powerful Android device, it'll probably work in the HTML5 client perfectly. But odds are you're always going to be better off running a native client if you can get your hands on one or download one. No, guys, I'm sorry. I can't show any specs today. The team who's working on this, the guy's helping me get this demo together. I just don't want to put them in a spot where there's any kind of flukes or weird stuff in Google Chrome. I will point out I actually, at the same time, have the native LiquidSky client running with a different Sky computer. So I have two Sky computers going. One right now I'm just downloading Fortnite so I can show you guys. I just started it a second ago. And on the other one I have kind of one of my demo Sky computers with Doom running. So one's got the HTML5 client and one has Fortnite going on it. So just trying to figure out this part in Doom. But to answer your question, it will work on mobile. The first release is going to be likely Chrome only. As you've probably heard, Internet Explorer it can be tricky to deal with when it comes to performance. It's not always the best for things when it comes to, you know, speed, efficiency, and not quite as optimized as Google Chrome is. Safari is definitely another very popular browser, so is Firefox. A lot of the guys in the office actually use Firefox. We want to support those too, but in the very early days, the people in this AMA, I imagine, are active in the community as well, so you'll probably get early access. It will just be a Google Chrome compatible HTML5 player, and we'll slowly add support for the others. Morgan, what do you think here? I go in this thing. I might just honestly restart this entire thing because I know the first like 3 levels so well. I want to see how fast I can speedrun it.
You might be.
Oh, I'm getting attacked right now.
Oh, so you're in the right spot.
I think I'm doing something right. Except if I run out of ammo, then I can melee. And sorry guys, I have the loudest keyboard known to man. So my old school mechanical Razer keyboard. So it's pretty aggressive. That guy is taking a lot of hits right now. Should be able to climb the cliff. Somebody has a suggestion for me. So I could climb that cliff over there.
Does it work
in Netscape? Mark Andreessen would be happy to hear that. I am not sure. Jarl, how does the HTML5 client perform in Netscape? What's the benchmark?
Does Netscape work on computers?
Yes, that is a good question. Is Netscape supported in what this is, which is Windows 11, for the record? That was a joke. That is a great question. We should definitely try to install. I think you can install. There's even a portable version of Netscape that you can download and install. That we should definitely try. Alright, guys, I need help here. For the people watching, how do I get up this cliff? This cliff over here, you said not that one? Honestly, I'm about to restart and do a quick speed run. Knowing this game, if I put my headphones on, I'd be able to hear.
You can jump and climb, can't you? Wait, climb up those boxes.
These boxes?
Right there, yeah. Can you climb up there?
Let's throw a grenade at myself. Get me up.
There.
Oh, you think? Dude.
I believe.
Team building. I believe I can fly. Alright, I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, I'm honestly... Any work done with latency further away from data centers? So that's a great question. There honestly isn't much we could do to overcome kind of the speed of light for real-time gaming. We do have a lot we are doing kind of with prediction, very slowly introducing it to try to compensate for some of those issues. But most of what you'll see us doing in the next few years is going to be primarily around just adding a lot of data centers. We're working with a few different very large providers right now to help build the data centers and get those out. But that's kind of our main focus, to get closer to people. For those of you that are further away, we do have plans to kind of help deal with some of that, whether it be split rendering or prediction. But we're very focused on just real time for now. Morgan, I need another tool tip. Think you can just climb over this thing?
Yeah.
Gang, it's not what it looks like. I'm working. Definitely an explosive shot. So how do you change weapon modes? The explosive. So I'm actually blown away that the guys figured out. So one of the things I was worried about with HTML5, obviously the latency that the browser introduces, the frame rate of the browser. So a lot of web browsers can't hit 60 FPS. Google Chrome certainly can when given the right hardware underneath it. It's incredibly impressive, but also the mouse. I was really worried that for games like this, which require the mouse lock to kind of hide the hardware mouse and put in like their own custom mouse, how that would work in the browser, because like I always think of browsers as having to do things to avoid pop-ups, and you can imagine how annoying it would be if there was a pop-up that took your mouse away. So kind of like what that would look like and how they would adapt to handling all the kind of cross-platform mouse stuff, and how they would remove the mouse on Windows and how they'd handle that on Mac, Google Chrome for Mac, and whether or not they could support hiding the mouse cursor and keeping it on screen for first-person gaming. Surprisingly, Google Chrome at the very least, and we will 100% look into Netscape. Google Chrome is able to do all of it with a lot of very, very creative code from the team here. But we have almost an entirely separate streamer, I want to say, or a big part of the streamer, just for HTML5 that we're releasing. So there's a lot of code in here, a lot of changes. You can use it for anything, once again, not just gaming. If you want to do something in Windows or run a Windows program, you know, in your web browser, LiquidSky will be a great way to do that. But definitely focused on what we started the company for, which is making things like Doom work. So the NVIDIA driver. Let me come back to that, because I have a list of questions that I want to answer from the last kind of, I think, questions that Morgan's been collecting from the community, and that's actually one of the questions referenced. Morgan, you gotta adjust the camera again because my eyes look too tired.
You're off center.
I'm off center? I don't want to go in here because there's just non-stop people in here. It's not ending. It's like I have to do something to make this fighting stop. I'm almost positive. It's not fair that these guys have magic and all I have is a pistol.
Scooch like 2 inches to your left.
Alright, alright.
Oh wait. Wrong way. Yeah. I know left from right, I promise.
I know. Hey, I'm just glad I'm somewhat able to talk and play this time. It's difficult. So you keep making me... What do we have? Any chance of supporting us turning our own kick-ass rigs into servers so we can connect to them away from home using LiquidSky technology? Absolutely. So not in the early days, just to be honest with you. We are very focused on the Sky computer and the Sky PC, but we're big believers, you know, kind of that some people are always going to want to have their own rigs or going to want to, you know, have them in their home. I think the device you have at the end of the day, whether it's a phone, a laptop, head-mounted display, or an audio-based, like thin client, like an Amazon Alexa or something, regardless of what it is, it's going to be very thin and it's going to be very tailored. It's not going to have a massive CPU someday in it, like what you have in your phone today. And in my opinion, the biggest reason that it has so much power today is because the network isn't quite there yet. You lose connectivity, or it's not fast enough. There's just certain things you can't really rely on the network to do, especially those that are like ridiculously latency sensitive, like gaming, UI, UX, which is what we started LiquidSky to try to solve for. The now that the network is getting a lot faster, in particular with things like 5G, I see a lot more of the compute kind of moving out of the phone and into the network, or into what we're calling the ICDN, but the LiquidSky servers. Regardless of whether or not you have one of those in your home, or you want to rent one from a data center somewhere at the edge, or that someone else is hosting, I think those are all viable solutions, and we want to try to support all of them at some point. But one thing that we have learned just by making mistakes is that if we get too distracted and we bite off more than we can chew, like I don't know if you all remember, but we used to have a PC, Mac, even a Linux client out of the gates, and it was just too much for us to manage at once. So we just want to make sure that we never bite off more than we can chew. What is this guy? Looks kind of like Master Chief. Let's see if I can. Yep. We just don't want to bite off more than we can chew. We want to make sure that we have really just people focused on making the best possible experience we can. We haven't been playing around with a lot of the prediction stuff outside of what we've had traditionally, just because we really want to focus on the real-time streaming experience, getting the latency as low as possible, and supporting as many games and programs out of the box as possible before just opening Pandora's box and releasing new features. So I could absolutely, to answer your question in a much shorter way, to sum it up, absolutely could see that in the future. We're not focused on it. Best I could tell you is you won't see anything like that most likely for the next 12 months. That's just us being honest. There are other products out there though for like remote desktop streaming and in-home streaming that are very good. Steam in-home streaming is one of them. I would definitely recommend. If you already have a crazy rig and you're on the same network, I would absolutely recommend one of those streaming solutions. The weird thing that a lot of people don't think about is that cloud gaming can have lower latency than, maybe not in-home streaming, but streaming from in-home over the network to kind of your wireless device from your server. And the reason for that is you have to put into consideration how the internet is built. Upload is very difficult in the kind of infrastructure that exists today, and also Wi-Fi is where most of the packet loss happens. So a lot of people think our server is causing packet loss. Most of the time it's Wi-Fi, and the reason you don't notice doing other things is because they can buffer. They can kind of run ahead 25 seconds downloading, whereas everything we do is under, in most cases, 60 milliseconds. So it's very real time. We don't have chances to buffer. We have to kind of predict what the network's going to do next. If you go over Wi-Fi twice, so if you're sending it from your workstation up over the Wi-Fi connection and then back down over the Wi-Fi connection, you're doubling that risk of packet loss. And it's a weird thing to explain, but using a Sky computer versus using like a VPN, a UDP VPN, and a remote desktop client will actually be traditionally much better, the Sky computer, because we've geared all of the peering arrangements and everything that goes downstream from our server all the way to your router, to try to guarantee there's no packet loss. And we've worked out those relationships and it's very clean. But then there's always the risk over the Wi-Fi something happening. So doubling that risk just makes it worse. If you're going to say that you're going to have your workstation hardwired like Ethernet, sort of like our servers are, and then you're going to take the client that you're running and maybe that'll be over Wi-Fi, that could certainly work, but you need to find an internet carrier that gives you consistent upload speeds as well. One of the most important parts of, I'll call it, cloud gaming, even though we like to use the term edge gaming, because we're kind of different than some of these big centralized cloud providers. We have servers very close to the users, and that's sort of what the footprint we're trying to build out. The truth is, the most important thing is consistency. So that's why we always work on the jitter. And if I pull over let me pause this game first. We don't have the HUD metrics in the HTML5 client yet, but if I pull over this client, you can see in the HUD some of these metrics. Jitter right there. Having a variable jitter, or getting the jitter to be as low as possible, is one of the most important things in interactive streaming. In particular, getting the jitter to be consistent allows you to do things like prediction. It allows you to do pre-rendering. It allows you to do split rendering. If you can't synchronize anything, you can't predict anything. You can always try to buffer a million different predictive frames and try to figure out what's going to happen. But getting that jitter down, making the experience consistent, not only on the network side, but also on the GPU side, is one of the main reasons that we didn't release the new GPUs quite yet. And we didn't release Elite, and we haven't released the new NVIDIA drivers. NVIDIA drivers is a different driving reason. We had a lot of issues getting them to scale. The new drivers have this requirement of a licensed server. I'm trying to phrase this politically without getting myself into trouble so I don't get a phone call after this. They required some new software, NVIDIA software, that we have to run and scale in our data centers, and it had some bugs and it crashed a lot. And when the driver crashes, instead of telling the users, hey, maybe like a warning or something, it would just black out the screen and cause a black screen. And we even had some of those issues in the M60, the older NVIDIA drivers. We're getting to a place though, where probably around this winter, we'll be able to update like in graphics drivers heterogeneously, which means different users can have different graphics drivers, which is incredibly important because it means you guys can update your own drivers without waiting for us. Right now we have to have the entire server with one consistent driver, which is why we block you guys from being able to install drivers. And that's a restriction outside of our hands. It's in NVIDIA stack. We also have AMD graphics cards we're really excited about, but we're not touching any of that until we feel like the jitter and the virtual experience is consistent, and as consistent as it can be with these graphics cards. Because once again, when LiquidSky came out, we had 13 data centers. We had a lot of different performance packages. We had Elite, we had a Mac client, we had an Android client, an iOS client. We never quite had an HTML. Actually, we did have an HTML5 client right in the very beginning. We had everything, and it meant none of it was very good. It was very distracting for the team. So we're very focused. And as we grow, we're getting better at kind of compartmentalizing teams, projects, and having teams be able to scale and focus on building one thing very well. What was the question? Sorry.
ETA for testing the HTML5.
Testing HTML5. So I promised myself I wouldn't give ETAs because I don't want to do the TM.
Yeah, soon TM.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the company time, but that company's. I don't want to do that. We've done that in the past. We're human. Unfortunately, that means that we make mistakes. A lot of what we do is a million different systems. It's kind of crazy when you look at our stack. I was showing the other day like the stack for like a very simple video on demand service, and it's like 3 different components. Ours is like 1,000 components, and everything needs to be orchestrated to kind of push an update or release something. And sometimes one team is too far ahead or too far behind, and things don't kind of match up. And it can make it very difficult to do, to kind of predict our timelines. That's why I think you see a lot of companies now, because they have this cloud component and they have this local component, they're not really announcing their roadmaps for updates. At least I see that a lot. They kind of maybe a couple days before will say, here's the update notes, and then they push something. It's because there's a lot more that needs to match between server and client now, thanks to cloud computing, a lot more dependencies. And there's a lot more platforms. So we can't really predict things very well. HTML5, we're going to start testing that client towards the end of next month internally. So hopefully at some point, around September, we can maybe get something in the hands of alpha users. And once again, keep in mind, this is HTML5, but for Google Chrome, because this one will require the high frame rates. And we're worried that some of the other browsers might have some trouble getting to 60 FPS, which in my opinion, is like required for gaming in the cloud. You can do a lot of things with less than 60 FPS, but if you don't have a full 60 to make up for a little bit of the lag caused in the network or the latency, you're in trouble. So, you know, I have a 60 Hertz monitor right now, which is also required, obviously, to hit the 60 frames per second to give the refresh. I have VSync enabled, and Google Chrome kind of supports all those really high performance features, which is awesome. 5G will change a lot. You will be blown away. I think with 5G, we've been playing with it for like 10 months, and that's about as much as I could say about it. But if you Google around, there's been some public stuff between us and Verizon working on 5G. It's awesome, and it's definitely going to be one of the things that changes interactive content streaming. And for those of you that didn't make the last AMA, the company now, because we feel it's great that we can do a lot of things without working with game companies and kind of building this platform for users where you bring your own games, we also want to make a platform where game companies can optimize their games for cloud streaming or upload games, to share with people for cloud streaming. And that's what ICDN is. It's the Interactive Content Delivery Network we built, which you'll see on our website. And it's really just a very similar solution to what you all use with the same exact underlying technology. And as we refine it for anyone, it gets better for everybody. But it's us kind of working with some of the game companies and other interactive content companies, CAD companies, people who want to take their software and put it in the web browser, regardless of what platform it's made for and what the requirements are. So I don't know if you guys have read about or gone to the new website. I think we launched this maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I can't remember. Time is certainly one of those things that I don't have a great handle on. I think 5G is going to solve the latency issues, and that's why I wish that you will demonstrate it in the stream. Guys, I'm sorry I can't demonstrate a lot of the 5G stuff. It's not really up to us. You could see us demonstrating 5G. I think there's videos on CNBC.
Yeah, let me find that link.
We did a thing with the CEO of Verizon on CNBC with Dave Faber and some others. There's some other stuff that we've been doing publicly, but we're not allowed to show off 5G here, unfortunately. We're always going to be 100% transparent unless it involves a partner who has us under some kind of NDA where we can't, talk about some things, which happens. Part of building the best, streaming platform that we can means we need to work with a lot of partners, and they have their own restrictions. That's not us escaping it. Trust me, I would love to show off a lot of the cool 5G stuff. If you stay tuned to the Twitter feed and the community, Morgan, we've done a lot of stuff for 5G that isn't public yet, and as Verizon is comfortable announcing it, Morgan will hopefully be posting it so that you guys can get the latest stuff. Am I excited for Elon Musk's satellite internet solution? Speed of light's the speed of light. I know what you're about to say, satellite is light. Radio. So regardless, the distance being that great means there's more latency. So unless we have data centers in space, which will happen, hopefully, you're making the round trip much longer. So I think for us to work on something like a satellite connection, it's going to be a very long time. You need to have a lot of bandwidth to do a lot of prediction. Basically, the way it works is you either have really, really low latency, in which case you don't need to do a lot of prediction because the latency is so low you can operate real time, which is great for the data center. You can use less GPU. It's sort of the way you guys play your games on your home PCs. With the latency increasing, you require more bandwidth, even though they're also higher bandwidths will generally lead to lower latency a little bit. But if you require more bandwidth to do predictive streaming, to send what could happen as opposed to what's actually happening. So it gets to be, they're kind of, even though they are correlated, they're at times with interactive streaming inversely proportional. I'm gonna do the Battle Royale because I don't know if I own the... I don't have friends, so that's fine. I didn't know you could do 50 versus 50. That's awesome. When did they add that?
They do that every so often.
Oh, it's an event, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait to just have Fortnite.com. Just boom, straight into it. That would be cool. Now that these HTML5, these browsers are getting faster, we'll start to see things like that, I think, happening. So I'm not sure, how does it look on the stream? It looks great here. One thing that frustrates me in Fortnite is how slow you feel like you're running. It just feels really slow. It's not necessarily slow. Making sure all my hotkeys are set up because I just downloaded the game. But yeah, HTML5 will be a great way while we're finishing some of the other native clients like Mac for people to kind of hop on and access their Sky computer. How are my stream settings right now is the real question. Even though I have like 3 streams going at once right now. Got the HTML5 client open and LiquidSky open twice. One so I can watch the Twitch stream, one so I can play Fortnite. Forgot how far you can fly in this one. Chrome, I have to be careful talking about other products. Chrome does eat a lot of RAM. It's definitely a bit RAM hungry. Once again, I just don't want to do that to the team here who's working on it to show kind of what the results are. I will say we've run it on some pretty low-powered laptops and it seems perfectly fine. If anything, just once again, you're going to need to have a 60 Hertz display to kind of comfortably stream in a browser a game. And I'm not sure the browser is going to be great until the prediction gets a lot heavier for things like first-person games. It definitely feels incredibly well with Doom. That's about as far as I can say. But we see it being used primarily in the early days for things like Fortnite, a lot of third-person titles, where the streaming is a lot lighter. And then slowly things like Doom, which I demonstrated earlier, which works perfectly, we just don't want to push it. It's actually funny, so the Twitch is having trouble grabbing the native client. It grabbed the browser perfectly though. Oh, the Fortnite doesn't look great for the viewers, then I can go back to...
That might be on my side.
Yeah. Maybe if I don't make it full screen.
Are you guys...
Better? How does that look for people? Is that any better?
Is it choppy for you guys?
Here, switch cameras for a sec. Let me try turning off the HTML5 client, maybe because I have everything open at once. I have 3 of them going. Good. Let's try doing this. Try it now. Maybe it was... Bandwidth. Is that better for you guys? Does that look smoother? Can't see Twitch right now, so I don't know.
Shows excellent.
Excellent. Well, you know what? So what? Looks great for me. It looks real good for me. Oh, you know what? It didn't get all of my hotkeys. That's weird. Got a few of them. Can't build a wall quickly, even though my mouse has like a million keys. I gotta rebind. Why did that guy not get me? He had my favorite gun. Did you figure it out yet for the Twitch settings?
I'll look at it on a mobile real quick.
Let me hide in the shack while I answer questions. Can you tell me what are some of the LiquidSky goals this year? Honestly, so the HTML5 client is a big one. We'd love to get some new GPUs in the service for you guys to play with. The better you run the frame rate in the cloud, obviously the better for everyone. To do pretty much anything. So I'd like to see, and this is kind of already in our roadmap, the Mac client, the HTML5 client, so you can just use it in the browser, and some new GPUs. And we do have roadmapped some new data centers, but I'm not sure how quickly those are going to make it into production just because they're out of our hands entirely. So I'd say new GPUs, the Mac client, and the HTML5 client. With regards to latency, the big change you're going to see is on the PC client. The PC client, we have a new renderer which is coming out that I believe it removes, what was it? 2 frames. It removes up to 30. Oh god, now I can hear myself. Now I'm scared to talk, if that's what I sound like. So it's got a new renderer coming out, and I believe it was up to 20 milliseconds of latency it removed in some cases. And that's more of a compatibility thing, just to be transparent. So some devices will not have that improvement, but there were a pretty good amount of devices we found that had an issue with the old PC client, causing a lot of latency. That fixes it, and we're hoping to get that out in the next, actually, 4 weeks. Once again, you never know, so don't hold me to any ETAs. Promise you we're releasing things as fast as we can. Most of the people here, including myself, don't sleep a whole lot. In case you can't tell. That's why I like Fortnite. It's so soothing the way it looks. Maybe not on Twitch. How does it look on the phone? Was it just the PC one that looked weird?
Yeah, it's streaming fine.
Looks great. Do you have Twitch on 60 FPS or like 100 FPS? Can Twitch do 100 FPS?
No, it's 60.
So my monitor's only 60 Hertz right now. I was just wondering because you can get the grabber going faster.
It's streaming at 60 FPS. I think it's streaming at either 70.
Do I dare this late in the game, making some noise right now? Do I dare? Getting shot at right now. Still don't even have any armor going. Yeah, I gotta get my key binding set up. I just downloaded the game right during this stream. I had 2 Sky computers going, which made it a little bit weird, to be honest.
The output got changed. It's outputting at 648.
What, the 648? Like is the
1152 by 648.
I didn't even know that was a resolution.
I didn't.
That sounds real weird. I'm gonna let that guy just build his fort right now. Shouldn't be playing the game this late without armor anyways. Is there a possibility to improve latency from LiquidSky servers with local ISPs? Absolutely. We're actually trying to put data centers really aggressively around the world, and when we put a new data center location in place, let me explain the name of the company first, because that helps tie into the data center rollout strategy. So LiquidSky, Liquid is the position we hope to get to, where you don't need to choose between gamer and pro. It just kind of automatically switches on the back end, really based on the game that you're playing and what's being used. So right now that part is still kind of static. It requires you restarting your Sky computer to change it. But we're going to eventually get to the the liquid performance plan, where you kind of just let it flow around on its own. And Sky is really a subset of cloud. We want to have data centers from different cloud providers, and we want to have certainly a whole lot of. Just make sure I don't mess this up right now. Certainly our own data centers as well, but we want to work with all the different providers and ISPs to make sure we always have a connection very close to an end user. And that means sometimes...
That guy was just trying to build over you.
He's building over?
He was, yeah. Melee.
I don't know how to melee.
No, there's no melee.
Is there not? If Fortnite looks bad, I'll play Doom as well. I haven't played Fortnite in a long time. What were we just talking about? There's a name Sky. So basically, there's going to be a lot of different cloud providers that have servers for us. We have our own data centers, obviously, which is kind of what we started with. But you're going to start to see data centers getting added by other platform providers as well, or cloud providers. You're going to see ISPs hopefully adding their own data centers to LiquidSky shortly. We're working on that. And a lot of those data centers are very close and tied to a lot of different ISPs, but that is one of the biggest things, getting closer to the users. Ad-supported plan, it was a combination. So honestly, we genuinely thought we could pull it off because we believed another company who was filling the inventory for the ad content. After kind of releasing the ad-supported plan, very quickly we found out that they didn't have enough ads to show users, so it got abused. And we eventually kind of got to a point where we were spending so much money, it was going to jeopardize the whole company on giving out Sky credits, and there wasn't enough ad inventory. There were also hackers and abusers. As we keep adding data centers and hitting economies of scale, we hope that the cost will get low enough to start to someday look at that kind of stuff again, but we are far from that. I did not present at E3. I had like a million different meetings at E3. I was there though, walking around, meeting with a lot of game companies and things. Honestly, we've done presentations in the past. We had our CES, I think it was our last big presentation and announcement. Now with like a lot of what you see in ICDN, to be honest, we're working behind the scenes a lot more. So like with the enterprise platform, we're building a lot of platforms for people, cloud gaming platforms. They're hosting them on our ICDN platform, which is kind of our cloud, so to speak. You can kind of think of it as a GPU cloud, but it means that we're not directly as involved in kind of making announcements and things a whole lot anymore. Also, I want to make sure that if we make an announcement, it's not distracting for us. The best thing we can do is make the product better, and it sucks to say, but the more time I spend talking about LiquidSky, the less time the team is working on making it better. So even having AMAs, it's really important, but we can't do them, every day. Alright, so let me go through some of the questions maybe from the last into the community rather. So when will the new drivers be coming? I think we talked quickly about that. They will be coming, but we really are focused on how they scale. I think we got that resolved. We want to make sure that... Can you see me now? I just felt myself rolling, and I was like, I'm not moving my chair. And then I noticed there was like a hook on the chair. The new drivers will, honestly, we're about ready, I think, to release them. I want to check in on that. But really, we want to make sure we remove as much jitter, so to speak, from everything from the virtual GPUs to the virtual CPUs to the network before adding new GPUs or even new drivers, because it just changes everything. We're almost at the point where we can have heterogeneous drivers, which is a fancy way of saying you guys can update your own drivers, which will be game-changing, I think, for a lot of people. And you can even run native graphics drivers like GeForce drivers or graphics drivers that are GTX, designed for the local consumer cards, even though they will be run on our server GPUs. We don't use consumer GPUs because A, it's against the terms of service to have server GPUs in a data center for most use cases, and B, they melt. That's the best way to explain it. When you run these things around the clock for like a month straight, they burn out. Even the most hardcore of gamers, they generally sleep a few hours a day, and our servers are cranked up most of the time. So it's different GPUs and different CPUs that we have in the data center. And they're much more expensive and they're a lot bigger. Working towards a Tesla V100, exactly what I mentioned earlier. We actually have had them. We've had the Volta GPUs we played with, some new AMD GPUs. We made that announcement with AMD last year even. We finished some of the drivers for that thing to do that demo. We've played with a lot of them, kind of a lot of POCs internally with GPUs. We will not release a GPU, and this is, I guess, my fault. We'll not release a GPU until we feel super confident that this one, we squeezed everything we can out of it and it's stable. On the enterprise side, if some of you guys are developers, when we release some of this stuff publicly, because right now we're doing a lot of it kind of being very hands-on with game companies and things, when we release this platform publicly, you guys will probably be able to see some of the GPUs and instances and things that are not publicly released on LiquidSky Games quite yet, because we're still kind of testing them. But we'd love to get your feedback once we do that. Yeah, we could talk, kind of quickly about the pricing plan. So beginner, prestige, and prestige plus. Let me go over to the pricing tab. So as you guys know, we had to make a bunch of changes to the terms of service. Some of them were for things like GDPR. Others, we were being abused as usual. There were users just, collecting an absurd amount of Sky credits that we found. And I don't know, if you guys are aware, but for us, Chambliss, who's our CFO, sits in the office over there. That adds up. It's just essentially it's a big liability for us, and it's something that prevents us from being able to grow, especially when people are finding exploits and things. So we had to adjust our terms of service and adjust how we handle rollover of credits and a bunch of things just to protect the users who actually want to use the service, and make sure that everyone can get on when they try to get on, and we don't get one of those ridiculous server full scenarios like we had when we released Elite, because everyone's just hogging a slot because they've built up 10 million Sky credits, and they just decide to leave their instance on and run some AI project or something for a straight month. We had to kind of start protecting against some of that stuff, so we had to modify some of the way that we handle Sky credits and the inactivity period of 90 days. And the fact that there's no rollover on the monthly plans. Also, we noticed some users were just kind of recurring and accruing those credits and not necessarily spending a whole lot of them. So it just really is like this massive build-up amounts. And we have to always be able that we have to make sure we have enough servers to service people hopping on whenever they want. And when they have that many credits, they can take up a lot of slots on our servers and really take up the whole thing for a long time. A lot of that is from the community as well. So we talked to the community. The biggest issues they were having were servers were full, couldn't get in, and we're sitting there, looking at the metrics, and we know we have plenty of servers for all of our users. There shouldn't be any issues with people connecting, but it was generally cases of abuse that we saw. causing issues with people being able to get on. Founders Club, I could pull up all the actual perks, but Morgan, maybe you want to talk about that.
The Founders Club?
Yeah.
Do you have the document open?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
But I mean, right?
Pull it up. I'm doing everything on my Sky computer. This is my third Sky computer. We have a Sky computer to look at the LiquidSky website. We have a Sky computer, the HTML5 client. We use Sky computers for everything.
Yeah, so the Founders Club is kind of an upgraded version of the VIP Gamer Club. I mean, it's still kind of, you know, in the works as far as what we're going to be implementing and what's implemented currently. I mean, some of the current things are kind of more along the lines of community incentives, custom profile pictures, custom flair, yeah, here we go, titles, things like that. We want to start kind of expanding the Founders Club into, I mean, into much more. At the end of the day, we want to be able to provide some extra value to people who decide that they want to go with the annual commitment.
Yeah, maybe. So, you know, I think of it, it's like the service is not perfect yet, right? It has issues. We know them. We have trust me, we have a big list of stuff that we're fixing and building and refining on. The cool thing is we have a plan, we have a roadmap, and we have a plan of attack to remove all the issues. You guys are getting in and have been in. You know, we've had some sort of a beta in the market for 2 years, right? So even alpha. You guys have been using it and helping us make it better. And most of the time, when you host an alpha or a beta, I'll be honest, it's free. Because that is such a valuable thing to have people coming in and telling us what's wrong, where the issues are, where the bugs are. We cannot make it free because the cost is crazy for us. We are buying GPUs that are, you know, in our case, some over $10,000 of GPU. We have to put them in massive data centers. These are really big servers. It's not like you're buying a $2,000 PC. You're shelling out a lot of money for these servers, and that's really what we're doing. We're kind of like leasing hardware to you guys. So it's way too expensive as opposed to just making some software and allowing you to test it. So we have to charge something. But you guys, we still consider you founders for the most part. The people who are helping support us, helping us grow, telling us what's wrong, being really active in the community. So it's really important that we try to find ways to recognize you in the community as someone who helped build LiquidSky, and that we prioritize listening to you, because not only do you see what the service is like today, maybe you've seen the trajectory of how we fix things and you have suggestions on how to make it better. You have kind of a pedigree, a history with the service. And regardless of other cloud gaming services out there and other things that are going on, I can tell you kind of firsthand, the bigger companies in the gaming space are working with us, and that's because they think our platform is the best, and it only would be the best if it was, you know, it's only the best because you guys made it that way, because you've been sitting there, and even though you're having all these issues, you continue telling us what's wrong so we can fix it. And incredible amount of respect for the team here, because obviously you keep finding bugs and we have to keep fixing them, and that can get frustrating, but we all want the same thing. So Founders Club is a way to remember that you were here when it was far from perfect, and you were there, you know, in the very beginning, and just try to give you benefits for that. A lot of games have Founders Clubs and kind of those perks they do in the beta stage, and we're going to do some of the same stuff. So I think some stuff we talked about were like monthly raffles, personalized AMAs to get feedback, a Discord chat, potentially staff events, definitely flares and titles and things in the community. Change your data center, you know, so there's like, we have that functionality today, but once again, we have potentially extra data centers that we're launching that are kind of always in alpha. Letting you guys access that stuff first, because you're definitely used to getting your hands on things really early. But yeah, and I'm always blown away because a lot of you guys, it seems, are developers. Like when we get bugs reported, sometimes it's not only a bug, it's also the code to fix it, which is always really cool. Like, yeah, so on line 30, I think if you just check if that class is initialized before creating it, That way, if you get this double refresh thing going on, it won't crash. Very cool to have developers here. I mentioned it in the last Twitch stream, but LiquidSky Games, so that literally the client that I'm using right here, this is LiquidSky Games. Most of the front end of that is going to be open source soon, so that you guys can help contribute to it, adding features like stream to Twitch so we don't have the issues we had today with things looking blurry or off. All kinds of features we hope, and bug fixes that you guys can build. But that's what ICDN is for us. It's our cloud, our underlying technology we're exposing for you guys to develop and build your own cloud gaming solutions, your own application streaming solutions, and also fix LiquidSky Games and work on new features for it with any bugs that you find. But the Sky is kind of going to be made up of all of these different cloud providers, including our own custom data centers, where we can always get the most aggressive with the best GPUs and the kind of stuff that gamers want. But yeah, so I definitely check out the ICDN stuff for those of you that are developers that have been fixing bugs. And we will be making some of our GitHub repositories public as time goes on, to let you guys get more involved in that, aside from just being a founder. So people are talking, I just went to the chat, people are talking about parking spots. I'm very confused.
Oh, he was likening the monthly plans to paying for 24 hours for a parking spot.
Got it.
Which I like, Supreme.
Okay. Supreme Chow. I'm not making that mistake, though, of reading people's screen names out loud. It always ends poorly, just for anybody streaming live. Other payment plans? Yes, we do have plans to potentially offer some other ways for you guys to use the service. A lot of them are not possible until we refine like the timeout system. In other words, let's say there was a plan without credits, like something that you can use where you just don't have to think about the credits aspect of it. We need to make sure there's a timeout, otherwise you're hogging up, to use the parking spot analogy. I like that. You're hogging up compute power on a server even if you're not there. So if there was a plan released, hypothetically, that didn't have credits, we need to be really, really good at either like a captcha or a timeout system. And we've done that in the past, and people are really smart. They found ways around a lot of the timeout systems, which just eventually leads to the servers being full, and then so I'd say that the biggest thing, the biggest issue we have, offering some sort of a, trying to avoid using certain words, offering a plan that doesn't have credits.
Creditless.
A creditless plan. There we go. The biggest issue with a parking space that you can get.
Let's just talk about parking spots.
Let's just talk about parking spots. That's actually what the company should be doing. We all want it. We've been working towards it. We need anti-cheat, I think, is the best way to think about it. We have to have a timeout. If you're not there, we got to free up that parking spot for other people to use. Otherwise, we run into the server full issues, no matter how many servers we have. Like, we have a lot of servers. We've had a lot of servers in the past as well, and they still fill up because people will just hog slots. And also, we see a lot of people who have multiple Sky computers, so that's another issue. We need to work on the anti-cheat. So think about a timeout or like a captcha. We love your feedback and your opinions on how we could do that. Think about a captcha that pops up, and you have to, they're always pretty annoying, so we want to find one that's not. But do something to make sure you're not a robot or some sort of a bot. You're just pressing keys to avoid the timeout, like we had last time. AWS, incredibly pricey. I don't know if you ever looked at trying to stream there. The latency is really high. That's a bold statement, but it's true. Once you do a lot of research, comparing to a lot of ISPs is software defined. Things are slow because a lot of it's virtualized on the software. It's not really like bare metal, hardware accelerated networking a lot of the time. We have that problem. The instances, the GPU instances, are not in the right sizes, so it becomes very expensive. There's not a lot of them. You can only start they don't have a lot of GPUs, believe it or not, in AWS. So we've ran into a lot of limit issues. They're not in many data centers. And they charge a massive hourly rate plus 9 cents a gig in most cases to get out of AWS. So the streaming cost is almost more than just the instance cost. You end up spending, multiple dollars an hour, and in a lot of cases, a lot of dollars an hour just to stream like a Sky computer type thing from there. But don't worry, the second it does become feasible, we will add it to the Sky. We will start to have some data centers with them. We will always try to get you guys the best price, whether it's there, whether it's on IBM, Google, Azure, our own data centers, some particular ISPs, data centers. We will always be there trying to negotiate for you guys. You shouldn't have to go and start your own Amazon account. You're always going to hopefully get a better price working with someone like us who kind of just buys a lot of their inventory.
Someone wants to know, I'll rephrase this question so we're not talking about competitors, but why don't we build our own servers?
Why don't we build our own servers?
Just compared to renting or partnering.
If you build custom hardware, getting that hardware approved so when I say data center, I mean like software data center. A lot of the times when we have a data center, it's co-located, so it'll be with like an IBM or like a lot of AWS data centers are not actually owned by Amazon. I don't know. When I say a lot, I need to avoid those terms. This is what always ends up in like I remember I had an article written. I was like Fortune or something. It was like they have zero latency, and then I got like 20 emails from people making fun of me. I was quoted saying there's no latency. I was like, I would never say that. A lot of their data centers are not owned by them. They're co-locating. Hey guys?
Yeah, so it's the walk.
A lot of the data centers are co-located or kind of multiple people are sharing them. So not always, they don't always have, they have restrictions on what you can put in them. Custom hardware, scaling that, like buying a lot of it, is almost always a non-starter. To give you an example, GPUs, just normal GPU servers, are incredibly difficult to get. We have had to fight like tooth and nail to find data centers that have the right electricity, the right networking, places that we can put them. So to get any more custom than even just a GPU is really scary to think about. Someday, as we kind of hit a really, really big economy of scale, we'll start to get more and more custom. But companies that always try to go too custom too fast always get over their skis. So we do have some custom components of our servers, I should point out, but they're not crazy. They're not something that wouldn't be allowed in a data center. OnLive is a great example. Their servers are almost entirely custom. They have custom encoding chips instead of just raw GPUs for a lot of that stuff. It doesn't scale, and you end up with a lot of issues. We can run on pretty much any cloud that's out there today, which is great to handle growing really quickly. But we also have our custom servers that we kind of are putting in our own data centers. What else, Morgan? How long time do we have? Should I hop into another game or no?
Why don't you hop into another game?
Yeah, let's do it. I can always talk while I'm playing. Question is, do I want to do Doom or do I want to do a little bit of Fortnite? I'll do Fortnite. I keep thinking I have to open my Sky computer, and then I keep realizing I'm in my Sky computer the whole time. It's like Inception. I have a Sky computer inside a Sky computer. I kind of wonder how many we can, now that we have the HTML5 client, how many instances of Google Chrome can we open inside of Google Chrome? Actually, Jarl, you did that. Oh, he's not here. He did that test. he opened like 30 Google Chromes inside of themselves. It got really weird. Move data center without leaving Sky computer. That's a great one. I can actually talk about. I don't know why I didn't mention that in the roadmap earlier. September we hope to have that in LiquidSky Games. You won't even need to worry about like migrating or anything. It'll just kind of handle it all in the back end. So as usual, there's some prediction magic involved. It tries to figure out where you're going, but it can remotely stream your Sky computer between 2 servers. It can do a full migration, which hopefully wouldn't be required if the prediction's working properly. But all those features, which we call those edge features, so kind of the difference between being a cloud where we have these big centralized data centers and being an edge platform is, for us, you can really they're very close to you and you can switch between them without any migrating. That all happens for us in the next few months. I feel like I should have teammates, but it just feels bad because unless I do this 50 versus 50 thing. Well, let me know if it doesn't look good on Twitch again. I will say they made a very hard game to stream. Because like all the colors are so crazy, I can see why Twitch is. Probably have to have a pretty big bit rate. I have everything cranked up right now though, as you can see with my bandwidth. And I'm on Pro. And I have way too many Sky credits, so I'm sure someone's gonna come talk to me about that. But for those of you wondering, yes, I do pay for my Sky credits. Oh, I have LiquidSky open like 20 times right now. It's down a little bit. And we're streaming to Twitch from this computer. Oh. I want to see all the streaming AI stuff kick in, forward error correcting. Do I dare risk it and just go right for the... You guys have sound, by the way, right, Morgan? I don't have my headphones on, so I can't tell. If we set Twitch up that way. Anybody have any other questions? $50 versus $50, this is crazy. You ever see this vehicle? Fortnite added vehicles? Oh yeah. Thing is pretty serious.
Big golf cart, don't they?
I don't know. You do tricks with it too? Look at this trick. Wait for it. The funny thing is you actually go way faster with it, I think. Or at least it feels faster. Downhill is definitely faster.
Chewy. What are you doing? He's trying to do some sweet tricks.
People are hating on the shopping cart right now.
You're being judged.
Trying to do some shopping, man. Also trying to get in circle. Crazy thing about the shopping cart is you can put other people in it. You can have someone get in the front of it. It's pretty awesome. Okay. Anybody have any other questions or no? It's a light AMA if it is. Is this good? That means, Morgan, that you're doing such a good job updating the community. I can't see the stream right now. Open it. Too many Sky computers going.
What are you having for dinner tonight, Ian?
Great question. I need to think. That's a hard one. Never gotten a question that difficult before.
Someone wants to. Would you compare, or could you compare the P40 to the P100?
Ooh. Yeah, P100 honestly did not impress us that much. It's a great GPU for like AI deep learning. Much like the Volta, the V100. I'm kind of waiting for the GPU V to come out. But the P40 is much better for gaming than the P100. P100 is more... it's better suited for like AI deep learning than gaming. Compare the experience though to quantify it for people in terms of like frame rates. I would say the P40 is more like... it will give people more like a 1080 type experience, whereas the P100 was actually a little bit worse than the M60, which was really disappointing. When we really cranked up a lot of concurrent games on those PGPUs. Oh, whoops. It was a little bit worse than the M60, the P100. But it streamed better, so it was kind of interesting. The games ran a little bit worse, but the streaming was better. Which was very strange for us. Oh, I'm out of, I'm dead. Ran out. Streaming was better, but the frame rates are worse. Long story short, P40 is better everything. Volta V100 is better everything, but it's way too expensive for the amount of users that can fit on it. So it just doesn't make any sense right now, the V100 for COD gaming in particular. Definitely makes sense for like AI deep learning, machine learning, those sorts of things. But they will hopefully release soon a version of the Volta that's good for gaming, like they're doing on the consumer side for the servers. Once again, if you ever see someone offering consumer GPUs in like a server side platform, it will not scale very well. A, they're not allowed in most data centers. B, they have a really poor shelf life, so the economics don't work out. Consumer GPUs do not do well when they're really beaten on. And C, they consume way too much power, so the cost ends up actually being generally higher in some cases. So it's rough that you need to use server GPUs, but we feel it's really important to get to the low jitter point where we have consistency around the clock. Because consumer GPUs like 1080s and Titans and things are very inconsistent. When they're run for really long periods of time, they use a lot of power and they die really quickly if you run them for like a month straight without giving them any... Like if you run a benchmark on a loop, let me give you an example. Run a benchmark on a loop on a consumer GPU for like a month and let me know if it still works after that. Usually they burn out, and also the electricity they consume, you know, the kilowatts is very high when benchmarked against, over a really long period, some of these server GPUs that do a lot better. They're just more consistent and they run a lot colder. So yeah, exactly. Noob 7310. Jeff. I like Jeff a lot more. Can we change your name to Jeff? So Jeff, exactly what you said. We really want to perfect the M60s before opening Pandora's box with new GPUs. Adding a GPU is not easy. It's definitely difficult. We need to physically put it in, but generally we work with other companies that do a lot of the plugging in the GPUs. We're more of a software company these days. It's really just the fact that we know any improvements we make right now with the M60 will carry over to the V40 and the V40, or whatever the GPU version of the V100 is. So we want to just squeeze as much as we can out. And those of you that were with us in the beginning, we had a Mac client, an iOS client, an HTML5 client, and we had a Linux client. And none of them were very good because we were just way too scattershot, and we want to just focus, laser focus on the best experience possible. So with regards to some of the Epic lines, getting very specific, with regards to some of the Epic lines, no, we have not tested some of them, believe it or not. We definitely have played with Epics and done POCs. We're kind of getting just into that now. I'd say we've tested probably every Vega that's coming out for a long time, and they're awesome. I think AMD will be a big part of VOD gaming and game streaming. It's really important that on the consumer side, you know, you have like a GPU that is optimized for a lot of the games, but on the servers we can do a lot of stuff in drivers. We can make the AMD cards perform a lot better, I think, is at the end of the day. There's a lot more open source components with AMD, whereas NVIDIA can be a little bit more proprietary, but our goal is to have them both. So you're going to see performance packages very similar to what we have here for 1X and 2X. You're going to see the M60 1X, M60 2X, etc., and then you're going to see like the AMD equivalent. So they're just going to be instance types, performance packages on the platform. We're always going to try to have both. There's a question here about our funding. Yeah, you can't look a lot of that up because we are a private company, but we've been around over 3 years. We certainly have a lot of funding. We have investors like Samsung, institutional investors. A lot of big names behind us. So. And saying that a direct competitor has no GPU issues, I don't think that's a very good argument. We haven't seen any competitor that doesn't have a lot of issues. Some of them don't have communities. They try to bury it all. I could definitely say that about our competitors. But even the big ones, Sony and NVIDIA, are pretty public about their issues. It's hard to build this type of service. Very hard. Yeah, I will say we've seen some companies do some really aggressive pricing. We've been there with like the free plan, right? Giving away a lot. Like some of them have a lot of servers. Like they're giving each user their own server in some cases. And you can start burning, you know, a lot of money a month. And those services generally don't last very long. OnLive did that. They were losing a lot of money every month. And eventually kind of caught up to them. Regardless of how much you raised, they raised hundreds of millions and were valued at a lot of money. The same with like other solutions like Gaikai. You can brute force all of the fixing the GPU issues problems by just giving users their own server, but generally those services tend to disappear. So LiquidSky does do 144 Hz today on the PC client. The reason we didn't release 4K is because there are not a lot of devices that can decode. In fact, I've never seen a device that can decode 4K video at above 100 Hz, not even above 60 Hz really. So if you find maybe like a 1080 Ti or something, that defeats the purpose. When we see more devices start to support 4K, decoding that kind of video really quickly at high frequencies, we'll start to add 4K support. We actually already have 4K and 8K support in the client. It's just literally a setting on our encoder. The GPU does most of that part, and we haven't released it yet. There's not a lot of devices that can handle it. For example, my monitor is 60 Hz here. This GPU, there is not a chance it could go even higher than 60 Hz 1080p video. So when we see them become more popular, we'll start to look at adding those stream settings. We, just to be blunt, we came out with every client, every device supported. I think we even had 4K in the early days. We had Mac, we had HTML5, we had Linux, we had iOS, we had iOS until it got pulled from the App Store, and now we're allowed to put it back up again. We had all these different clients, pretty much every setting you can imagine, and it led to it not being very good. So FPS right now, the reason it's capped is my monitor is only 60 Hz. So even though I have my FPS set to unlimited, it's a great question. It's set to unlimited, but my monitor can't display frames faster than 60 Hz. So I would need a faster monitor, even though the stream's coming in very fast. It actually does help too to have a faster stream than monitor. It can help remove some of the screen tearing that you can get. Will we ever have a physical product? I think we'll have supported devices that we're really sponsoring. Like we have a controller that we're pretty fond of, that we're really comfortable with, like the polling rate and the driver, and we recommend devices, I think, on the website today. That really goes against what we believe, though, to have like a physical device, because we're always gonna like prioritize that device if we release it. I'm not gonna say we're never gonna do it, but our vision is really that you should be able to use whatever you can get your hands on, and we need to try to come as close to solving that problem, rather than just kind of, you know, telling people in support, like, you know, that device is not supported. Like, yeah, we say it works with any device, but it doesn't really. I'd rather just focus on trying to make all devices, or as many devices as we can, work, and not really just having one that we offer. It also makes it really difficult to offer a device and to work with OEMs, so the guys who make the Chromecast and make all these different devices, the TVs. If we're sitting there like, please help us optimize for your device, and they're sitting there looking at us like you have a competing device in the market, they tend to not pay as much attention to us, which is what we've seen with a lot of companies. They kind of like the fact that we don't have hardware in the market, and I don't see us doing that. We definitely want to work with hardware and offer recommended hardware, sponsor hardware. So I think we have recommended hardware here, you can see. So there's like this particular controller. It's just one of those controllers. Actually, I think the price went up. It's kind of weird. One of those controllers that is crazy affordable for what it offers in terms of, you know, latency, polling rates. There's not a lot of dead spot. So we just thought it was a really cool deal, and we focused on it. I think you'll see us kind of recommending stuff, because I think if you do want to buy something, you should at least have a place where hopefully other users can post what their experience is using it. But once again, we want to be more or less software, not hardware on the client side. Will we be Chrome Stick compatible? Absolutely, we want to have Chromecast support or Chrome Stick support. It's different. Don't think of it going to your phone and then being redirected the stream to the Chromecast. That would add a lot of latency. In reality, what generally happens with a lot of the programs you use and then you cast them, like video streaming apps, it actually basically just sends instructions to the Chromecast on how to play the stream directly. So the stream goes straight, in a straight line, to the Chromecast. It doesn't go through your phone to the Chromecast, unless you're doing like mirror mode, which would not work well with anything that is latency sensitive, because you have to do twice the work. You send it to the phone, you encode it, send it back to the Chromecast. So yes, it's just a lot of work, and we want to focus on PC and Android. We do have the Mac client and the HTML5 clients coming in the next few months. LiquidSky's pricing with loads of options is not simple. Yeah, I think there are like a million different ways to pay for LiquidSky. To be precise, I think over 800. You can pay with your mobile bill. You can pay with like a Subway gift card, a Best Buy gift card. It does get confusing, but those were some of the biggest complaints that we got in the early days. So it was us reacting to the community. You guys wanted all these payment methods. We found a company that would help us get you those payment methods and work on that with us. So great. So once again, physical device question, because it just came up again. We will have supported devices in the community. I think there'll hopefully be organized ways for you guys to talk about what your device is. We're going to have metrics. It'd be awesome if in the future you guys let us share some of these metrics, or you had a way to publicly put them somewhere so that you can feel confident, like, all right, someone else had this laptop and it ran really well with very low latency on this network provider, this ISP. So that you guys can just literally see those experiences rated without someone trying to, rate it themselves. Because it's hard to get a baseline from people who don't know how to. Why can't we move the LiquidSky bar anymore? You mean the HUD? That's a great question. It led to a lot of bugs, strange bugs, where people couldn't escape LiquidSky. So when you think about it,
you're forever
trapped in the sky. You think about it, you press F12, right? We have the mouse locking modes, which is needed for some games, and your mouse is gone. Your mouse is now part of the Sky computer, and if the game doesn't want to show you the mouse, or in this case Google Chrome doesn't want to show us the mouse, it doesn't have a software mouse, then you're trapped. And people didn't know what that meant. So let's say, F12, we got it off the screen, they found some sort of a bug at a certain screen size to move it off. They were trapped forever. Especially people with touch-only screens were trapped forever until they can figure out how to restart their device. So for now, we just threw it there. You'll be able to move it again in the future at some point, so it's not in your way. The HUD, is really just there for debugging. We don't expect people to do what I'm doing and have it there all the time. We're going to have a logging system shortly where you can go and see your stats from previous sessions, so you don't have to watch it real time, instead of just writing to a log file like it does today and having this here real time. So it's not in your way, but yeah, we'll allow you to move the. Can we offer 8 vCPU cores for Pro? We would like to give you guys everything. 64. I think it's a matter of, would you be willing to pay for it? We have to, break even, or in many cases we lose a little on a lot of these plans, the way that they're used for now, because it is a beta. So if we release an instance type with 8 vCPU cores, would you guys be interested in that? We'd have to, sit down and figure out what the cost of that instance type would be, but it would be higher than the 6 vCPU instance type. And yeah, the multiplicity of payment methods, putting it. Some of them inflict carrier pricing or something. There's VAT tax. There's all these things that are factored in there. So you may notice you get a better bang for your buck when just using a credit card. That's not on us. That's all third-party providers with their own costs. Yeah, I would 100%, LiquidSky bot, follow the social media. We've been doing a lot of cool stuff lately that I can't talk about because it's with partners, and hopefully some of it starts to get announced and we can tweet about it or retweet whatever they post. Core is also thinking about 6 vCPU, 8 vCPU. That's one of the biggest challenges that we have, and we've been working with AMD actually on some of it. I don't know what I can talk about there. We have consumer GPUs and consumer GPUs are very similar in a lot of ways to server GPUs when it comes to performance, but server CPUs generally run a lot slower. So you have a CPU and a server running generally between 2 and 3.2 gigahertz, where you have desktop CPUs that can run the whole time at like 3 gigahertz and even turbo up to like 4. Because of that, game developers can get a bit lazy and not multi-thread their program, and that's a fancy way of saying they design their game to run on multiple cores at once. They just don't care because they don't need it, because the CPUs in the gaming PCs are so fast they can just use one core. So they literally program their game to use one core. That's an issue on LiquidSky because the CPUs are a bit slower, right? They're generally between 2 and 3 gigahertz. So we've been working on ways to speed them up. And that's not always adding more vCPUs, more cores. Sometimes it's back-end stuff that you don't notice. But we have a lot of tricks we're kind of implementing to help improve that. Why not hand out sponsors to big YouTubers? Believe it or not, we're not really looking at getting a crazy amount more users right now. We have an awesome community as it is, and you guys have been awesome, you know, kind of helping us build out the product and build the beta. So we haven't really done a lot of advertising. Oh yeah, the leak today.
We were just talking about that.
I can't comment on that. It's not official, so I can't comment on it yet. Yeah, Xbox. So I'll say this. Let's say PlayStation Now starts doing really well, and there's exclusive games there, because I think that's the only case where we would want to look at doing something. There's exclusive games in Xbox. I think whatever the games are, they'll be on LiquidSky, because for the most part, it seems they're moving towards PC, and we offer a Windows solution. And by the way, Microsoft likes that, or at least they should, because we pay a Windows license fee for each of our users. So that shouldn't be an issue. I wouldn't consider them competitors because of that at all, and we do a lot of stuff with Microsoft. The Sony, though, if it got to the point where they have a lot of exclusive content, you know, that could always end up being a part of one of the options on LiquidSky. We want to work with as many providers as we can.
One more question?
One more.
We have time.
I don't know if you could tell. My eyes are... I've never spoken to Bill Gates. I've exchanged emails with Satya, though, before. Satya Nadella. And I met Phil Spencer and some of those guys. But I've never met Bill Gates. Although he shares a birthday with me. Funny enough. October 28th. Oh, Parsec. Yeah. I love those guys. I actually met their CEO very recently. I don't know why it didn't happen sooner. It's actually funny. You guys are talking about like Shadow and Parsec and all that in the chat. The cool, most awesome people to meet are your competitors. It's like weird, you think you would hate them, but nobody else knows all the challenges that we have. From an end user perspective or a beta user perspective, it just looks simple and just fix the bug, right? But your competitors actually understand every day that you wake up working on all this stuff, that you don't sleep a lot. They know everything you have to do, so it's actually really cool to meet those guys. And I like their team a lot. They're awesome. And for some of you looking at the game streaming locally thing, I'll definitely check out Parsec. I think you can actually run Parsec on LiquidSky. I don't see why you couldn't. That's also something else, if you guys already have that. We want to make this as open as we can. Our goal is to build the most affordable GPU, you know, compute platform out there that is all over the world and really, you know, kind of positioned like a CDN, which is what we call ICDN, interactive CDN, positioned well with the ISPs to reduce latency. Yeah, so number of users, number of servers. I'm sorry, guys, but as you can imagine, we're a private company, and you disclose a little bit of data like that, it becomes, yeah, it's a metric. Cool. Alright guys, well until next time, thank you for the AMA. Sorry that it got started a tiny bit late there. I just was running out of another meeting that was going over. Hopefully, if you guys stay tuned to the Twitter and the community, we can get the Founders Club going and start to release some of those features, and we can retweet and show you guys some of the stuff we've been working on with partners, because we can't really talk about it until they're comfortable doing their press releases and things. Awesome, thanks guys. Thank you.